Hi everybody, Karl Diffenderfer here with Higher Impact Business and Life Coaching, and I'm here with
Randy Miller from Frederick, Maryland.
And Geoff Lapp from Lancaster here.
And we'd like to talk with you today about some things that we were discussing in our mastermind groups today. And the goal of today really is to just give you some thoughts, some things to think about as to how this applies to your life and your business. Hopefully provide value to you, something for you to really ponder and think about. And so Randy, what are we talking about today?
Excuse me. I get choked up just thinking about it. So it's what's our identity and how does our identity connect with our roles? And I think often, particularly in the context of selling, a salesperson can get so connected to their role that their identity feeds into that, or vice versa. So as an example, if a customer says no, does that affect my role or does that affect my identity? So
Well, that
I don't
means
know.
I'm just really messed up and broken as a person, right? And
Yeah.
I'm just not valuable,
No,
right?
right,
Right?
right. But if they say yes, wow,
Man.
life is great and I'm a wonderful person, and so there is a definite need to understand the difference between my identity and my role.
Wait, so if you say no, does that mean you don't like me?
Let me think about it. Maybe I should turn to Jeff.
Oh my God! Don't even throw it my way.
That's a challenge, because if we feel that the person doesn't like us, that is an identity issue versus what my role is. And I have a whole host of roles in life, and I know one would be I'm a husband, I'm a father.
Okay, yeah. Maybe soccer coach or driving a car. I'm a car driver. That's a role. What are some roles you can think of, Jeff?
Brother.
You would say that.
I would. A twin brother. I mean, of all things, brothers, friend, a pastor. In some respects. Just to share with others. Yeah.
Father, mother.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're neither of us are mothers, but
Yeah,
I know.
but someone
Father.
that
Yeah. Exactly. You're a
absolutely.
grandfather too, right?
I am a grandfather.
Okay,
That's
there you
right.
go.
Yeah.
That's a role.
Four great, wonderful grandchildren.
Nice.
Not a great grandfather.
I got you.
Wow.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
We're supposed to be bringing clarity to you, and we're bringing confusion. So we'll get this corrected here in a second.
This will
But,
make sense in the
roles.
end.
yeah, it will. But it really is a powerful concept, because if my identity, if I carry kind of the challenge of my recognizing my strengths and confidence and so forth into a meeting, and particularly into a sales meeting, then that's going to influence the way I present to someone.
Yeah. Have you ever met somebody that says, "You make me so angry"?
Ooh, yeah.
Well, that's actually somebody that's allowing their identity to be impacted by you. Nobody should have the right to jump into that world. Like we all have the ability to govern ourselves, and so that's one of probably the core principles that has to be identified here in the beginning of this conversation. That we are in charge of our own little bubble. Now, we don't do it perfectly, I get that, and there are definitely outside circumstances that can affect that. I get that too. But at the end of the day, I choose whether or not I'm happy or sad or mad or glad or whatever I am. I choose that, no matter what the circumstances. And so in our identity, when we look at our identity versus our roles, we have to start off with that foundation principle. Would you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I know, Jeff, one of the things that you have in your history is as a teacher, particularly as a high school teacher.
A role. That was a role.
That was a role,
Okay,
definitely.
just-
So in that role, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, thanks, man.
In that role of being a high school teacher, I'm sure that you've seen high school students that you've watched this happen throughout a day, where their identity and their roles go back and forth and create drama in the classroom, and maybe drama directly with you.
Oh my. Yeah, after especially 8 years being removed from teaching and then coming back for a year just this past year, yeah, there's definitely, I think in our society in general too, there seems to be more of this trend toward who I am as my role versus, and I mean, it's just a human issue, but it's, I think, even more so this day that we're living in of, I mean, because we're on Facebook, we're all these different social medias where we tend to take on this role even more so, this persona that is perhaps just on the surface who we are, but our identity is who we really, really are. So I've seen it. Yeah.
I saw, you mentioned Facebook, reminded me, I saw a comment on Facebook. It was, first it started with a product question. The person was asking others and their friends on Facebook, they were asking them what their opinion was, or did they have a product that they liked, and they mentioned the people who were responding mentioned product names, and there was really some good information that came across to help this person make a decision. But there were some that actually kind of went to identity, to the others that were commenting, and I thought, it was a product question, and they stabbed back at someone's identity, and they just felt that they felt insulated from any other outside comments, and I felt there were people who responded to it, and it changed the whole course of the conversation, which were really someone was saying, hey, give me some feedback on should I look at this product or that product, or do you have a better product that I should look at? It was about product,
So
and it turned to identity.
So people were disagreeing with what products were proposed? Is that what happened?
They were disagreeing, or they were commenting on the approach that someone took to,
I've seen
I love this product, it changed my life at this and that, and they were really for this product. And so the other person commenting said they went for that it changed my life kind of thing. And it was like, wait a minute, that was that person's feeling about the product that they had used, and yet someone else went right at their identity. That there must be something wrong with you because you like this product.
Well,
and they had a negative feeling about the product.
Right.
But I thought, wow, that changed the tone.
We're all too quick to judge and critique others, basically. I mean, it's what I hear you saying. But so with the roles, though, we've identified what some of the roles are, but a question you need to ask yourself if you're going to look at your identity is, who are you? And can you describe yourself without including those roles? I've frequently asked people this, that question of who are you, and they say, oh, well, I'm a plumber. Okay, well, that's not who you are. I'm sorry. And so when we think about who we are, we might say that I'm a gifted individual. I have a lot of talent when it comes to communicating. We might say, whatever. You could say a myriad of different things. And those things, you got to feel confident to say them, first of all. Believe in them, but then those things really are who you are as a person. And so what happens though is we as people, we mush them together. So if I get up one day and I'm having a hard time getting out the door on time, and somebody cuts me off on the highway, and then somebody tells me that I'm a poor coach, doesn't really happen very often, but let's say it does happen. So now all of a sudden I have the ability to say, oh, those things have now sunk my identity, and now my identity is down here because all these things on the outside had the ability to affect that. So it's almost like we need to build a wall between our identity and our role, and they're really not connected. Is that safe to say?
Well, if I'm a person of integrity and I go into a sales environment and I'm bringing who I am, my integrity, into the sales environment, then I'm not going to be saying things that would be, push up against being a lie. They're not white lies, they're not untruths. I am going to be a person of integrity.
Right.
And I've been on the side, where not only on the sales side, but from the customer's perspective, the customer said to me, I'm going to be totally truthful with you. And then at the end of the sales conversation, or near the end, they turn it and say, well, all along I've had this thought, or their thinking, I just didn't tell you that from the beginning. And I thought, I was seen, because I was in sales, as someone who was going to lie to the customer because I'm in sales. Mm-hmm. And yet my customer, or the customer, was not telling me the truth, but that was their identity. And they scuttled their own identity with me. Now, can I trust them as a customer? I would hope that they were going to be able to trust me. I brought integrity to the table. They didn't. And it really bothered me that I was expected to be the liar. You know, I was expected because I was the salesperson. And so for me, that identity and role issue, it just kind of really, it stood up strong, and I just wanted to be, I'm going to come to the table with integrity. Yeah. If I'm coming together and I'm sitting across the table from someone who's a father, and we can connect as fathers, and we're talking about our children, then we're talking to one another within a role, but really also we're talking about our heart, how we think and how we discipline, how we want our children to grow, what we envision our family being. So all of those things come into play in the context of what my identity is and how I'm expressing that identity in the context of whatever role I may be in at the moment.
Right. So at the end of the day, our roles, circumstances have the ability to affect our role. And so our roles we could be a 10 out of 10 on any certain day, or a 1 out of 10. And that's going to fluctuate throughout life. But let me ask you, so let's say that fluctuates, but our identity is different. If you were to rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10 with your identity, what number would you give yourself?
I think he pointed at you.
You did. And,
It's,
since I'm not perfect, I'd like to say I'm a 10. But I would say I'm going 8. I do it 80% of the time. I know my identity and I act it out in my role well, but I'm an imperfect man, and so I'm going to go 8.
I feel like it's a trick question. I feel like if we answer wherever we answer,
well,
I feel it's but I feel the same way. I certainly want to walk in perfection, but I don't do that very well. Don't have that T-shirt in my closet. You know what I'm saying? So I would say an 8 feels. I feel pretty good on the top side of 5. But
that's why you can't quantify it.
I know.
It's something you can only qualify. It's something subjective that I have a hard time with putting a number to it.
I have a feeling he's going to come in on this.
Go ahead, bro. You're up.
I totally set you guys up. Totally. So the answer is 10. It's always a 10. Because at the end of the day, our identity is who we are. We are who we are. We're as imperfect and perfect as we'll ever be. So our roles, they can affect that. And by the way, we've had roles assigned to us since the moment we were born. Mm-hmm. Son, daughter, that's a role. And so, and then you grow up and you have the role of living up to the expectations of those people around you. And that's okay. Sometimes those expectations help us become better, but at the end of the day, our identity is always a 10, and it has no right to ever change unless we tell ourselves that we're going to allow that number to drop. Right. Because you're only as perfect as you ever be. Like, you're not going to make yourself any more perfect, right?
I mean, there's no way. My hardest, and
right.
Exactly.
But
and your wife thinks you're perfect anyway. But we didn't
talk
to her about
exactly.
Thanks, you're welcome.
She'd affirm that too.
So that's why I felt like this was a setup. So I think for those watching us, what did you think? So we were set up where you set up. Did you think 6? Did you think 4, 7? What are you thinking your answer was to that question?
Right.
Because I love the fact that what you're saying, Karl, what you're saying is our answer should have been a 10, strong, confident 10.
Yeah, and for those of you watching, if your number wasn't a 10, then ask yourself, why wasn't it a 10? Why can't I give myself a 10? Because ultimately, you're judging yourself about something. There is no reason for the whole planet, we are all 10s. Now, do we all live up to that 10? No, we don't. But those usually are roles that are affecting that 10.
Exactly. So it's identity begets your role. It doesn't go the other way. Role does not beget your identity. And
Exactly.
so I think
Yes.
that's what you're
100%
sharing there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and his banging on the table brought much emphasis to you, I'm sure. Because of my radio background, I used to bang on the table and the radio, the microphone would shake. So, yeah, we apologize in advance for any kicking I may have done or, banging on the table. But we mean it, is what we're saying. Because it's so important to have a sense of confidence in wherever we're progressing. You mentioned I'm a grandfather. I want to be a great grandfather. I mean, a really, really good grandfather.
Sure.
And, hopefully, if I hang around long enough, I'll actually be a great grandfather, But I
enroll in an identity.
And there you go, yeah. But it's that sense of, I come to it with a strong, confident identity so that it begets strong, confident identity.
Yeah.
And I think that's true not only in family relationships, but it's true in our work environment as well.
So let me ask, as a kid, I'm going to share a little bit about me. As a kid, I kind of dreamt big. I don't know if you guys were like that, but I always thought, man, I could do this or I could do that. And I really had a lot of belief. Now, obviously, as I grew up, I figured out, okay, well, I can't be Michael Jordan. That's not going to work. I'm not tall enough. And I figured out a bunch of other things that I couldn't be, but I never lost that spark to say, if I set my mind to do something, I can do it. And I think that's a lot to do with our identity. That's a big part, is that confidence in believing that if we really want to do something, we can do it. And I think as a human race, we need that. We need to think that way. So, but at the end of the day, so that's a little bit of my early childhood identity. But how do we apply this to every day? Like, how does this apply to work? And how does this apply to sales and business? And how does this apply to our families? Like, what's the application of this now?
Thoughts?
You go first.
I think, again, as I said a moment ago, it's like when I'm sitting across from a potential client, what do I bring? Who am I? What do I bring to the table? So that identity governs who I am in that context. And I would hope that if it's in that context, or if it's me in the role of husband, or the role of father, or the role of my wife and I attend a church and serving the congregation where we are, or whatever role I may be in, that I bring me into that role, and I want to serve well. I want to communicate well. I want to bring the heart of who I am into the environment. I want to be intellectually connected. I want to continue to grow. So I want to be all of those things, and I want to be confident about where I am in the moment that I'm there. And I may find myself in a situation where I don't know the answer to something, and that's not because I'm stupid. It's just because I'm uninformed. When my kids were real small, I remember they would come home from school and they would say, hopefully your name's not Johnny, but they would say, Johnny said I was stupid. And I would look at them and say, well, are you stupid? And they would say, well, no. And I'd say, well, then Johnny's wrong. Johnny's wrong. Because if you believe you are, then you are. And if you don't accept that you are, then you're not, and you can be confident. And I know all three of the older ones walk in that today, and I think, you know, I hear them say things back to me that I think, wow, that started when they were really, really young.
Yeah.
In the context of that sense
Yeah.
of confidence and growth and learning and change and so forth. So.
And I like to, I mean, I don't know if you've heard the quote, Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." And so there's not even yourself.
Yeah.
So not even you can make you feel without your consent. So there's a consensual relationship that you have when externally someone's telling you you can't, or you are wrong, or in all those different areas. But when if you believe that, that becomes then your identity. It starts to like take hold, and then that's that other way around. It's your role then begetting your identity, and that's not what you were created for. And I maybe preach it, but I mean, I know now as a Christian, I know my identity is in Christ, and so with that, in and of itself, to me, is my identity. And so I don't not only want to let myself down, but I want the God who made me down. You know, as far as that, my identity is so much bigger than even who I think I can be. Yeah. So that's kind of how I've been growing growing.
I have a funny story. A pastor friend of mine was telling me he had just been to the hospital to visit someone, and he saw someone as he was coming out of the elevator. There was someone said to him, they had apparently been listening to him or watching him do something, and they said, "Are you a Christian?" And he said, "No, I'm a pastor." And then he realized what he had done, and he was like, "Whoa, wait a minute," you know. He had to rewind that, you know. And it was like, wow. And that is an example of role and identity in that environment. You know, standing in the hallway, you know, in front of an elevator, you know, it's like, wow. And he had to confront that. And it was interesting that when we were talking about it, I didn't think of it in this terminology that we're talking about today. But it is that same kind of thing. It's like, do I bring my role home? You know, am I frustrated in my role at home, at work, and bring that?
Oh yeah, that's huge.
Home, right? And
it's
been there, done that.
Haven't we all? Yeah. So
we better start to wrap up here for everybody. I hope you had some really good takeaways out of today, and you had some things to think about and ponder. And ultimately, like, I think our identity has the ability to affect our confidence, and that's really what we were talking about today. Is how do we have that confidence? And I believe for you, I believe for us, that our confidence is something that we should have, and on a daily basis, it's something we should get up with. And we really should be working at that, and not being afraid to fail. Like, it's okay to fail. It really is, and that affects our confidence sometimes. And we don't dive into those things that we're afraid of. And there's no problem for any of us. There's no fault in any of us failing. It's okay.
Right.
I think it's John Maxwell who, I think he wrote a book called Failing Forward.
Failing Forward.
Great book. Yeah, it's an excellent book. So. Yeah.
So, well, we thank all of you for being here today. We're going to keep doing these. We really like just trying to share some of the things that we're learning, because I mean, we're sitting in coaching sessions helping people, and we see these things, and it's like, man, if we could just pass this on to others, because we see the patterns and the nuances of what people are going through. And so love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments or thoughts or concerns, or just reach out to us, and we'll be happy to get in touch with you. And we'll see you guys again in the next few weeks, and take care. Over and out.
Till next time.
Take care. We'll see you.